Jackson Reeve had never seen a sky so dark. The twin moons of Varix Prime hung low, like two dull silver coins resting on black velvet. The air was cold and thin, carrying the smell of metal and ash. Around him, the ruins of an old human settlement. Lay broken and forgotten, he crouched behind a crumbled wall, watching the patrols of the Varix soldiers. His heart pounded in his chest. He had come here for the same reason as many others, to find anything valuable left from the old wars. But he was different. Jackson was a human, though he rarely thought about it. Humans were believed to be extinct. The Varix Dominion said so, and everyone believed them. "Move. Move," shouted a Varix guard nearby, her voice sharp and cruel. Jackson slipped into a narrow tunnel, feeling the cold stone press against his back. He carried a small satchel filled with scavenged tech, some ancient maps, his only weapon, rusty plasma knife. He had to get out. Suddenly, bright lights flooded the tunnel. The soldiers had found him. "Freeze," deep voice commanded. Jackson knew it was useless to run. The Varix were fast, strong, and well-trained. Two large guards grabbed him roughly. He struggled, but they held him tight. "Prisoner," one growled. "You're coming with us." Jackson's mind raced. What would happen if they discovered he was human? The penalty was death. But so far, his disguise of fabricated alien identity had saved him. He was careful. Careful not to speak too much. Careful not to be seen closely. But now, it was over. The journey to the capital was long. Jackson was thrown into a crowded ship, surrounded by other prisoners, rebels, and criminals. They all looked at him with suspicion. Jackson kept his head down. The ship arrived at Varix Prime, the heart of the Dominion. A massive fortress city, shining with strange blue light, it towered over the land like a dark god. It was a place of power and fear. Jackson was dragged into the palace and thrown into a cold cell. The walls were smooth metal, with no windows and no sound, except distant echoes. He sat on the floor, nursing a growing pain in his side, where a sharp piece of metal had scratched him during the capture. Days passed. Guards brought him only water and cold rations. The questions started. "Who are you?" demanded one officer. Jackson stayed silent. He knew any lie might break under pressure. Then came the pain. His side began to burn. The wound looked strange, glowing faintly with golden light. Jackson did not understand it. It was as if something inside him was waking up. The guard saw the glow. Panic spread. "Bring the queen," someone shouted. Jackson's cell door opened. Two guards dragged him out. In the throne room stood Zalthia, the alien queen. She was tall, with shining silver skin and eyes like burning stars. Her presence filled the room, cold and commanding. She looked at Jackson's wound and froze. You can't be real," she whispered. Jackson blinked, confused. The queen knelt before him, her face a mask of shock and fear. "Show me your hands," she said softly. Jackson obeyed. The glowing light seemed to pulse with his heartbeat. Zalthia whispered words in an ancient tongue, then looked up. "You carry the blood of the Emberborn," she said. "The ones we thought were gone forever." Jackson shook his head. "I don't understand." The queen's voice grew stronger. "Long ago, your people were warriors of flame and power. You fought us and almost destroyed the Dominion. We wiped your kind from the stars. Or so we thought." Jackson looked down at his glowing wound, feeling a strange heat and energy. The guards around them whispered nervously. "Why do you keep him alive?" one asked. Zalthia's eyes burned with a strange light. "Because he is the key," she said. "The last spark of a flame that should have died." Jackson was taken to a private chamber in the palace. There Zalthia ordered her healers to tend his wound carefully. Over the next days, she visited him often. She asked questions about his past, about humanity, and about the legends. Jackson told her what little he knew. He was born on a distant moon raised by scavengers. He had no idea about Emberborn or ancient wars, but inside he felt something awakening, a power he could not explain. One night he woke to find Zalthia sitting quietly by his bed. "Do you fear me?" she asked Jackson. Shook his head. "I don't even know who I am." The queen smiled sadly. Neither do I. But together, we may find the truth. Outside the palace, whispers spread through the Dominion. Rumors of a living human, glowing with golden light, began to stir hope and fear alike. Some saw him as a threat, others saw him as a symbol. Jackson did not know what the future held. But one thing was clear: his life was no longer his own. The war for the galaxy had only just begun. The cold walls of the palace prison echoed with silence. Jackson Reeve sat quietly, his side still glowing faintly with golden light from the mysterious wound. He barely understood what was happening to him, but one thing was clear: he was no longer just a scavenger hiding in the ruins. Now he was a prisoner of the Varex Dominion, held by the very queen who feared him. The throne room was a place few ever saw unless summoned. It was vast, with high ceilings that stretched into darkness and towering pillars carved from black stone. Silver banners fluttered in an unseen wind, and the scent of ancient incense filled the air. At its center sat Zalthia, the alien queen, in her gleaming throne. Her silver skin shimmered like the stars, and her eyes burned with a mixture of curiosity and dread. Jackson was brought before her again. This time he was no longer just a prisoner. He was a mystery she had to solve. Zalthia's gaze locked on his glowing wound. Her voice was quiet but firm. "You carry the blood of the Emberborn," she said again, almost as if she was trying to convince herself. Jackson blinked. "What are you talking about?" "I don't know who the Emberborn are." The queen's expression hardened. "Your kind was the greatest threat the Dominion ever faced. We almost lost everything in the wars of old." She stood and moved closer to him, studying his face as if searching for something hidden. "Your blood glows because it carries the ancient power of fire. The Emberborn were said to be extinct wiped from history by our people, if you are one. Of them, you are a living weapon." Jackson looked down at his hands. The wound was still glowing softly, like a small sun under his skin. "I'm just a man trying to survive," he said quietly. Zalthia's voice softened for a moment. "Then why does your body reject death? Why does your wound glow with life when it should be poison?" Jackson didn't have answers, but inside he felt something stirring, a fire awakening inside him. Meanwhile, the shadows of the palace, whispers began to spread. Some high-ranking Varex lords and ladies feared the human prisoner. Others saw an opportunity. "The Emberburn's return means war," warned one elder. "No," replied another. "A fierce general named Kavor. It means power. Whoever controls the last human will control the future." Back in the palace, Zalthia made a secret decision. She could not kill Jackson, not yet. She saw something in him, a chance to change the Dominion's fate. She ordered her trusted healer, an alien named Lyra, to study Jackson's wound and health. Lyra was curious and careful, and she worked in silence. Days passed. Jackson felt the healing energy flowing through his veins, but with it, a strange new sensation: strength, clarity, and a burning heat beneath his skin. One night, Lyra spoke to him softly. "Your blood is different," she said. "It is alive, with ancient genes. You thought they were myths, but they are real." Jackson frowned. "What does that mean?" Lyra hesitated. "It means you are special. You carry the power of your ancestors, the Emberborn." Jackson's mind raced. What was this power? Was he truly connected to some forgotten past? Zalthia visited Jackson again. Her expression was serious. "There is much you don't know," she said. "The Dominion feared the Emberborn because they were warriors, unlike any other. They could control energy, heal from wounds, and inspire armies." Jackson listened closely. "But why do you care?" "Because you could change everything," she answered. "The Dominion is corrupt and broken. A new war is coming, and you might be the key to ending it." Jackson shook his head. "I don't want to fight." Zalthia's eyes softened. "None of us want war. Sometimes the past calls us back. You're not just a prisoner, you are a spark of hope." Outside the palace walls, rebellion grew. Across the Dominion's worlds, groups whispered of the last flame, a human who had survived the centuries and carried the power of fire in his blood. Some wanted to kill him to protect their power. Others wanted to find him and use his strength for their own causes. In a darkened chamber, General Cavour sharpened his blade. He had heard the rumors and sworn an oath. "No Emberborn will rise again while I live," he muttered. "If I must burn the stars to stop him, so be it." Back in his cell, Jackson felt the weight of his new reality. He was no longer a simple man. Something inside him was awakening, something old and powerful. He touched his glowing wound and whispered, "Who am I?" No answer came. But one thing was certain: the galaxy had not seen the last of humanity. The air inside the hidden laboratory smelled of metal and chemicals. Bright lights hummed softly, casting pale blue glows over rows of strange machines. Dr. Kalen moved carefully between the devices, eyes sharp and curious, unlike the others. In the Dominion, Kalen was a scientist who cared not for war or power, but for truth. Jackson Reeves sat strapped to a cold metal table, his golden wound glowing faintly under the bright lights. He had been brought here secretly, away from the prying eyes of the palace guards and the scheming lords. Dr. Kalen bent closer to Jackson's side. Studying the glowing wound, "Your blood is like nothing I have ever seen," she said quietly. "It is not just alive. It contains a coda secret locked deep inside your DNA." Jackson tried to pull free, but Kalen shook her head. "Don't be afraid. I am not your enemy." Jackson's eyes met hers. "What are you saying? Who am I?" The scientist's voice was serious. "You are what the galaxy has forgotten, the last Emberborn. Long ago, during the wars between humans and the Dominion, the Emberborn were an elite group of humans enhanced with special abilities. Their blood was said to burn with power, their wounds glowing with energy that healed quickly and gave strength beyond any normal being. But after centuries of fighting, the Emberborn disappeared. The Dominion claimed to have wiped them out completely. Yet here Jackson was, with the signs of that ancient power inside him. Lund pulled up holographic images on a floating screen, pictures of ancient battles, glowing warriors and human heroes with blazing wounds like Jackson's. "You carry the genes of the Emberborn," she explained. "But something is different. Your powers are not fully awakened. You are the key to a new beginning." Jackson's mind swirled with questions. "Why me?" he asked. "I grew up on a poor moon. I'm no warrior." Kalen shook her head. "Power chooses its own vessels. You may not understand now, but soon you will." Days passed. Kalen worked with Jackson in secret, teaching him to control the strange heat in his blood. At first, it felt like fire burning beneath his skin, painful and wild. But slowly, Jackson learned to focus the energy. When he touched his wound, the glow could flare bright, burning through steel or healing deep cuts in seconds. One night, Jackson stood before a mirror in the lab. His reflection showed a man still unsure, but his eyes held a new fire, a fire that no longer feared the darkness. Meanwhile, in the palace, the alien queen Zalthea wrestled with her own doubts. She watched Jackson from afar, curious and wary. Her empire was cracking under the pressure of rebellion. The nobles fought among themselves, greed and ambition tearing the Dominion apart. She knew the power Jackson carried could save or destroy them all. But there was one person who wanted him to General Cavour. Cavour was ruthless, a brutal warlord who saw the Emberborn as a threat to his rule. "He must be destroyed before he can rise," Cavour told his commanders. "Only then will the Dominion survive." The tension in the galaxy grew. News of Jackson's existence leaked to rebel groups. Scattered across the Dominion, some saw him as a symbol, a sign that humans were not forgotten. Others saw an opportunity to use his power to topple the Dominions. Jackson found himself at the center of a growing storm. One evening, Kalen and Jackson met in the hidden lab. "There is more you need to know," Kalen said, her voice low. She revealed ancient records stored deep within the Dominions. "Archives. Your ancestors created a weapon not of death, but of hope," she said. "The Emberborn were meant to protect life, to bring balance." Jackson listened, feeling the weight of history on his shoulders. "Can I be that weapon?" he asked. Kalen smiled softly. "You already are." Suddenly, alarms blared through. The Palace Cavor's forces had discovered the lab. Jackson and Kalen rushed to prepare. "We must get you out," Kalen said urgently. "They want to capture you alive." Jackson's glowing wound burned fiercely. He felt power rushing through him, stronger than before, with a burst of energy. He broke free of the restraints. The lab's machines sparked and hummed wildly outside. Soldiers poured into the hallway. Jackson stood ready. He raised his hand. A bright flame shot forward, burning through metal doors. His power was growing, fierce and wild. Kalen followed, guiding him through secret passages. They escaped the palace. Disappearing into the night, Jackson looked back at the distant spires of Varix Prime. He knew this was only the beginning. The Emberborn flame had returned, and with it, a new hope for the galaxy. The cold wind cut through the ruined city of Varix Prime as Jackson Reeves stood on a high ledge. Overlooking the burning horizon, fires lit the night like distant stars fallen to the ground. The rebellion was no longer just whispers or small fights, had become a full-scale war. Jackson felt the strange heat of the Emberborn blood pulsing inside him. His wound, once small and faint, now glowed bright like a beacon. He was no longer a simple scavenger or prisoner. He was a leader behind him. A group of rebels gathered quietly. Humans, aliens, and even rogue Varix soldiers who had turned against the Dominion. They looked at Jackson with hope and fear, waiting for a plan. "Tonight, we strike at the heart of the Dominion," Jackson said. His voice was calm but strong. Time for hiding is over. His companions nodded, ready to follow him into battle. Among them was Lyra, the healer who had once tended his wound, now a trusted advisor. Dr. Kalen, the scientist who unlocked his true nature. And Arax, a fierce alien warrior who had lost everything to the Dominion, far away in the dark chambers beneath the palace. The alien queen Zalthea watched the rebellion spread like wildfire. Her empire was crumbling. She thought of Jackson, of the fire he carried. Can he save us? She wondered aloud. She also knew she was running out of time. Meanwhile, Jackson's power was growing faster than anyone expected. With each battle, his glowing wounds healed almost instantly, and his strength increased. His enemies called him the Last Flame, a living legend. But his greatest challenge was yet to come. One day, deep in the rebel camp, Jackson and his allies discovered an ancient vault buried beneath the ruins of an old moon. Dr. Kalen activated the vault's controls. The heavy doors opened slowly, revealing a room filled with advanced machines and sleeping pods. Inside, motionless figures lay in stasis, ancient humans, with glowing veins and armored bodies. Jackson stared in shock. "There. Emberborn," he whispered. Suddenly, one pod hissed and cracked open. A woman stepped out, tall and proud, her eyes blazing with the same golden light. Her name was Seraph Illyra, the leader of the original Emberborn warriors. She looked at Jackson, then narrowed her eyes. "You carry our blood," she said, "but you are not like us." Jackson felt the weight of her words. Was he truly one of them, or something else? Illyra explained the truth. The Emberborn had not been destroyed. They sealed themselves in stasis to survive the Dominion's final attack. They awaited the one who would awaken them, the final spark. And now Illyra doubted if Jackson was that spark. "You are weaker than us," she said coldly. "You carry only a fraction of our power." Jackson's heart burned with anger and confusion. "Then what am I?" he asked. "You are the future," Illyra said quietly. "But the past and future must find balance, or all will be lost." The rebellion grew stronger with the Emberborn's return, but so did the Dominion's fury. General Cavor unleashed a secret weapon, a massive warship, capable of destroying entire planets. His target, the rebel stronghold, Jackson and Illyra, stood together, watching the stars darken as the ship approached. "We must defend the rebellion," Jackson said. Illyra nodded, her fire burning bright. "This war will never end until one side is gone," she said. Jackson clenched his fists. "No," he said firmly. "This time, it will end with peace." The battle was fierce. Explosions rocked the sky, and beams of energy lit the darkness. Jackson fought with the power of the Emberborn, his wounds glowing brighter with each strike. Elira led the ancient warriors, fierce and unstoppable. But the warship's weapon fired, a devastating blast that destroyed a nearby rebel planet. The loss shocked the rebels. Jackson felt the pain of every life lost in that moment. He made a choice. He would no longer fight. Only for survival, he would fight to unite the galaxy. The sky burned red with the fires of battle. The great warship, Kavor's weapon, loomed over the rebel stronghold like a dark storm ready to crush everything beneath it. Explosions shook the ground, and the cries of battle filled the air. Jackson. Reeves stood at the center of the chaos, his golden wound blazing with power. Around him, rebels fought desperately, but the enemy was strong. The warship's massive cannons fired wave after wave of destruction. "Jackson," Lyra shouted, running through the smoke and debris. "We can't hold much longer." Jackson's eyes burned with fierce determination. "We fight. For every life lost, we fight harder." The power inside him surged like a raging fire. He raised. His hands and golden flames erupted, cutting through enemy forces like a sword of light. At the front line, General Kavor watched with cold eyes. His armor was scarred from countless battles, and his face was a mask of hatred. "You will die today, Emberborn," he growled. "So Where charged into the battle, its massive blade swinging with deadly force." Jackson met him head-on, the air crackling as their powers clashed. The duel was fierce and brutal. Jackson's wounds glowed brighter as Kavor's strikes grew more powerful. But Jackson fought not just with strength but with hope, the hope of a new future. With a sudden burst, Jackson channeled all his power into a fiery blast that knocked Kavor back. Meanwhile, on the palace balcony, Zalthia watched the battle unfold. Her empire was falling apart, but in Jackson, she saw a chance for peace. She made a decision, with a heavy heart. She ordered her guards to attack the War Council, the corrupt leaders who had pushed the Dominion into endless war. Back on the battlefield, its four recovered and charged again, but Jackson was ready. The glowing flames around Jackson became a shield, protecting his allies and burning away the enemy. With a final strike, Jackson's fire engulfed Kavor, ending the warlord's reign of terror. The warship's cannons went silent. Rebellion had won. Jackson stood victorious, but weary. Rebels cheered, but Jackson looked to the stars. "War is not over," he said softly. "This is just the beginning." Zalthia approached him, her silver eyes full of respect. "You have changed everything," she said. "The Dominion will never be the same." Jackson nodded. "I don't want to lead," he said, "but I will protect the galaxy." In the days that followed, Jackson helped build a new counselor, Union of Species. Working together for peace, he taught others to unlock their own strength and to believe in something greater than war. One quiet evening, Jackson stood alone on a cliff, watching the sun rise over the new world. His wounds still glowed softly, a reminder of the fire within. He whispered to himself, "We're not myths. We're just the beginning." The last flame had returned, and with it, a new hope. For all life in the galaxy,